welcome to this very special edition of Off the Cuff, or OTC as we call it. Our guest tonight is someone who has been a very famous model, an actor with an interesting mix of movies, and someone who turned producer with a very unusual movie in 2012, Vicky Donor, John Ibrahim. John, thank you so much for being with us and braving the Delhi heat. John, you've had a very interesting career trajectory, if I might say. So you've had a mix of what we know as masala movies.
Right.
But very early on in 2005, I think you did a movie like Water. You've gone on to do movies like Madras Cafe. Now, of course, you have a movie releasing this Friday, which is Parmanu, based on the Pokhran nuclear blasts. Did you feel at some point, being a model in the kind of perception there is of models being non-actors, did you feel it was necessary for you early on to start doing movies where you could establish yourself as an actor and not just a star?
I remember this very famous the statement by Dustin Hoffman and what he told Robert Redford. He said, whatever you do, you'll always wear an albatross around your neck. Somewhere down the line, it'll always be about the way you look. And being a marketing person, I think I used, it's a visual medium at the end of the day. So I used my physicality and my face, partly so to my advantage. But at the same time, while I was trying to build a commercial platform, I was also trying to build a Z-axis. You have an X and a Y-axis. I wanted a Z-axis, so I'd have a three-dimensional approach to whatever I was doing. And that Z-axis was trying to do different kinds of films. So my quest was never in trying to prove to people whether I could do this or do that. My quest was always in trying to tell a different story. And because I didn't see that happening as much as an actor, I turned producer.
Right.
So, you know, we first came into contact, sort of, after I saw your Madras Cafe.
Right.
And I think I did acknowledge in my writings and on public platforms that it was the best Indian film on contemporary politics anybody had made as yet.
Wow.
Now you have Parmanu. Vicky Donor, you didn't act in it, but you produced it.
Right.
So is there something that attracts you to contemporary politics?
Well,
because Parmanu is very contemporary. Madras Cafe was very contemporary.
As a producer, I go by gut. I have to tell you a very interesting incident, if I may. When I was pretty young, I was sleeping at home one day, and I woke up in the morning and I felt a drop of water hit my face. And I opened my eyes and I saw my mom drawing the curtains and she was crying. And I'm half Parsi, so I asked my mom, I said, Mummy, su thayu, what happened? And she said, Rajiv Gandhi was killed last night. And I kind of saw her face and I understood the enormity of the situation till I think a couple of days later, your weekly and your bi-weeklies came out with, the covers. Exactly, and I still have that magazine with the cover, with the torn kurta, the face, the Lotto shoes, and it impacted my life. And somewhere down the line, Shujit and I shared the same vision in making a story based on that, which is why we went ahead and made Madras Cafe, which was incidentally supposed to be our first film. Vicky Donor happened in the midst of our planning to make Madras Cafe. Similarly, Pokhran was something that is very close to my heart and it impacted me somewhere. Why I'm telling you this is because as a producer, I make films with my gut. Whatever I believe is working for me in my head, I believe would work for an audience somewhere. Pokhran, the tests impacted me somewhere. So I feel this is a story that had to be told, had to be said, but to speak about it in context with Madras Cafe, from a producer's point of view now, absolutely from a producer's point of view, not from a learned point of view from where I'll come from. Madras Cafe was very niche, very elitist. With Parmanu, I wanted to simplify it and make it reachable to the lowest common denominator, which is why I tried to make the film very, very simple without really dumbing it down.
But the high point of Madras Cafe was that you acted as a soldier, Indian soldier, who ended up on the losing side.
Yeah.
That was a brave thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did somebody tell you this is not the way to do it? Come back with Pokhran
You won't believe.
I think you came back with Dawood in some film.
Yeah, shootout at Batla, where I'm like. But I have to tell you this, and Shekhar, this is the shocking thing about, unfortunately, about most of the youth in our country. I took Madras Cafe with Shujit, and I said, Shujit, you have to come for this. And I sampled it to audiences in Mumbai and Indore and, you know, a few other cities. And when you sample it, you have people who are professionals who ask questions to that audience, you know, female, male, and they say, तो आप बताइए हमें ये फिल्म किस चीज़ के ऊपर है? 95% of them, I would say 99% of them, said, ये तो कुछ लग रहा है, मतलब ये जॉन इब्राहिम ने शर्ट नहीं उतारा इसमें, और एंड में तो वो मर गया. And there was one person who said, ये राहुल गांधी का कोई होगा. This is, and I was like, I looked at Shujit and I said, Shujit, we're gone. It's over. This film's not going to work. I went back to the drawing table and I started, and if you see Madras Cafe, you show the map of India. Because some of our erstwhile colleagues think Sri Lanka is near Afghanistan. So I had to show where India is, where Sri Lanka is, where the Trincomalee district is, and I had to start all over again. And we had to spoon feed the audience. And I'm not saying that you have to. See, you're showing a film, you don't have to play smart. You have to understand and make the audience understand. So we went back to the drawing table, we did everything again, and then we went back to the audience and said, okay, this is the context in which we're making this movie. Now do you understand something? But it took some time, and there was an audience that really appreciated what we did. But by the time they appreciated what we did, there is something in production and commercial parlance called an opening. That was finito. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to draw that balance, and you've got to understand how you need to position your film, how you need to get it across.
You show in one of the leads, Dinah Penty. Okay, you also say that she's one of the brains behind the operation. So I went back to the Pokhran pictures, original pictures, and I see that, you know, there aren't actually any females.
Yeah.
So how did you tweak the narrative to include a female
I'll tell you.
character?
Yeah. So there were a host of people who were involved in the process.
Mostly 75-year-old men.
Quite, yeah. So what we did was, so you had BARC, you had DRD, you had ISRO, you had the IB, you had the Army, you had a lot of people involved in the process. We spoke to a lot of people, you know, and for the sake of confidentiality, we couldn't take certain names like Dr. Kakodkar's name, we couldn't take Mr. Chidambaram's name, you couldn't take APJ Kalam's name, you couldn't take, though we've dedicated the film to him. But there are a lot of names you couldn't take because in our field, you get into rights issues, you get into biopic issues, you get into a number of issues which I'm steering clear of. But in some of the research that we did find out that there were a couple of women who were involved in the process, but not directly. We needed a female character for this film, which is where we've taken a bit of creative liberty. We needed a female character in this film. And we had 2 or 3 characters. We've amalgamated those characters, the personality traits of those characters, and we created our own Ambalika, which was Dinah. And this is not a typical film where Dinah has romance with me, or she's not doing an item number in the sand dunes.
How will it work?
Won't work. And I think that even for my brands, for example, when I did, I'm digressing again, when I did Dostana, I had every Indian underwear brand that came to me to say,
That was a chaddi scene.
कि आप ये पहन लो, आपको इतने पैसे दे रहे. And I said, आप एक काम करो, आप मुझे इसका into 5 दे दो, क्योंकि इसके बाद मेरा career खत्म हो जाएगा. Because in my head I feel I'm so brand sensitive that I don't want to be associated with a brand that may not resonate with me or with my audience. Similarly, in the film space, there's been a lot of pressure on certain films to put songs in, where a film doesn't merit a song. So it's only after Vicky Donor and after Madras Cafe that people now kind of take me a little more seriously, not completely, a little more seriously, and the battle still goes on.
So, sir, you're saying that you're focusing on being a serious actor. Okay, and so the past few films, if you look
May I
back,
just interject?
Yes.
I'm not focusing on being a very serious actor. My favorite genre is comedy.
Oh.
I love comedy, and I think I don't want to be condescending to a side of cinema that I may not be doing at this point of time. But I think it's important to draw a balance. And I think it's easy to do all kinds of cinema. The toughest is to make people laugh.
Like you said, you're not exactly focusing on serious roles. But then again, it's been a while since we saw you in that, Bollywood romantic hero role as well. Are you consciously, not going for those romantic roles?
No, actually, coincidentally, what's happened is, say, I want to do a comedy, I want to do a romantic film, maybe. But like a studio head just said that, John, in the past 5 years, you've got 3 of the best scripts I've heard. And I was like, which are the scripts? And he said Parmanu, because his father's an ex-BARC scientist. And he said, I've never heard something so special, and the way you simplified it is the biggest battle won. And I said, then what? Then he said, Raw. Raw is my next film, which is based on the 1971 war. And the next one, which is a true story on the Batla House incident that happened. So he's saying these are
The
3...
encounter in Delhi.
Exactly. So he said, you've got 3 of the most, explosive films, and you should be happy. And I'm like, yeah, but I just need to do a comedy. I need to laugh, So I think you need to balance it out.
So what's
somewhere.
your favorite comedy film? Of all kinds.
I still like, from what I've done, I like Garam Masala a lot.
Not
Of all the comedy films I've seen, I think Jaane Bhi Do Yaro is by far, hands down, yeah. You don't see films like that anymore. Absolutely wonderful. I love Padosan also.
So there's competition.
But I love Half Ticket also. So I love anything. I mean, I honestly like No Entry also. so I like anything that makes me laugh, and I laugh really loudly in the theater. Yeah, so people think like this guy is an oddball out, and I'm like, no, this is really funny.